Living alone was never something that scared me. I was 30, fully independent, and more than capable of handling myself. My house was a duplex, 2 floors split into separate living spaces. My sister, Jordan, had the lower unit, while I occupied the upper one. She spent most nights at her boyfriend's place, 20 miles away, leaving me alone in the house more often than not. That particular night, I was curled up on my couch, watching a horror movie. My unit had an open floor plan, the kitchen, dining area, and living room all blended together into one dimly lit space. My couch sat in the center of the room, with a vast, empty space yawning behind me. Watching something scary in near total darkness should have made me uneasy, but I was used to it. Still, every so often, I found myself glancing over my shoulder, feeling an odd sense of vulnerability. It was that strange, creeping paranoia that always seems to accompany the silence of an empty house. Eventually, I shut off the TV, brushed my teeth, and turned out all the lights. I slipped into bed, expecting a peaceful night. I was wrong. I jolted awake a couple of hours later, the red glow of my clock reading 1:04 a.m. At first, I wasn't sure why I had woken up. Then I heard it. A voice. It sounded like Jordan's voice, but she was supposed to be at her boyfriend's. The voice called out again, muffled, distant, but unmistakably hers. Alex. She sounded distressed. My first groggy thought was that maybe she had come home early and needed my help with something. I swung my legs over the bed, rubbing my eyes. The hallway was pitch black as I fumbled for the light switch. As I made my way toward the staircase, I could hear her voice again, clearer now. She was calling my name from downstairs. I called out, "Jordan? You okay?" My voice sounded hoarse in the darkness. No answer. Something about the silence that followed sent a prickling sensation up my spine. I hesitated on the stairs, my fingers hovering over the railing. I took a deep breath. I was being ridiculous. If she needed something, she would have just said it outright. Maybe she had forgotten her keys and was trying to wake me up. Brushing aside the lingering unease, I descended the stairs in the dark. The air felt heavier down there, the silence thick and expectant. When I reached the bottom, I realized something strange. The front door was still locked. "Jordan," I called again. Nothing. I flicked the light switch, and the kitchen light flickered on, dim at first before gradually brightening. The space before me was completely empty. My stomach knotted. I checked her bedroom, empty. The bathroom, empty. I was alone. Just as I turned to head back upstairs, I heard it. A sound from her room. A dull, soft thump, like something falling onto the floor. I had just checked her bedroom. I stood frozen, my breath shallow. My eyes flicked toward the bedroom door, which was slightly ajar. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Forcing myself to move, I reached inside and flipped the light on. The room was still empty. Nothing seemed out of place. I swallowed hard. The sound had been real. I backed away slowly, my legs suddenly feeling weak. I hurried upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking as I dialed Jordan's number. She didn't pick up. I tried again, and again. Finally, after the fourth call, she texted back. "Why are you calling me at 1 a.m.? I stared at the message. "Are you home?" I typed back. "No, I told you. I'm staying at Noah's." "What?" I didn't reply. Instead, I sat there in the dark, gripping my phone like a lifeline. My mind scrambled for logical explanations. Sleep paralysis? A vivid dream? But I knew what I had heard. And I knew one thing for certain. That voice downstairs had sounded exactly like Jordan. But Jordan hadn't been home. And she hadn't called my name. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I kept telling myself I had imagined it, that it was some kind of waking dream. But deep down, I knew that was just a comforting lie. The next morning, when the sun finally rose, I ventured downstairs again. My chest was tight with dread, but I forced myself to look. There was nothing on the floor, nothing out of place, no signs that anything had happened. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there. Something had called my name. Something had wanted me to come downstairs. And I had almost listened. Story 2. There was something deeply unsettling about the quiet that settled in after midnight. It wasn't an absence of sound, not exactly. It was a presence, a tension in the air, like something waiting just out of sight. I was 17 when it happened. My mom worked night shifts at a nearby hospital, leaving me alone in the house most nights. My dad had left years ago, and my older brother had already moved out for college. I had gotten used to it, being alone. At least, I thought I had. That night, I had a girl over, someone I'd been talking to for a few weeks. Rachel. She wasn't technically my girlfriend, but we liked each other. She stayed for a while, watching movies with me in my room before she had to leave. Her parents were strict about her being out too late, and she didn't want to get in trouble. After she left, I stayed up, scrolling through my phone, playing music softly in the background. It was past midnight when I heard the noise outside. A scraping sound. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. My bedroom was on the second floor, facing the backyard. I turned off my music and listened. Silence. Then, there it was again. A slow, deliberate dragging sound. I got up and went to the window, pushing the curtain aside just enough to peer out. There was someone sitting in one of the deck chairs below. My stomach clenched. At first, I thought maybe Rachel had come back for some reason, but as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I realized this person was too big to be her. He sat eerily still, his face obscured by the shadows, but he was looking up, directly at my window. A cold chill prickled along my skin. I couldn't make out his features, but something about the way he sat there, completely motionless, sent a wave of nausea through me. I took a step back, heart pounding. My phone felt slick in my hand as I texted Rachel. "Please tell me you didn't just come back to my house." She replied almost instantly. "What? No. I've been home for like 20 minutes. My stomach twisted. I crept back toward the window, moving as slowly as possible, hoping, praying that maybe I'd imagined it. But he was still there. Still staring. Still silent. I don't know why, but I felt the need to speak. Maybe to convince myself that this was some kind of misunderstanding. "What do you want?" I called softly. At first, he didn't move. Then slowly, I saw his shoulders rise and fall. He was laughing. Not loudly. Not even audibly at first. But his shoulders trembled, his entire body shaking as if he were suppressing the sound. I stepped away from the window, while rising in my throat. Then he moved. Not standing up, not leaving, but leaning forward, his hands gripping the armrest of the chair. And then he whispered, loud enough for me to hear. "I see you." I felt my legs go weak. I dropped to the floor, crawling away from the window, struggling to stay silent despite the sheer terror consuming me. I grabbed my phone again, my fingers trembling so badly I could barely type. I texted my friend Jason. "Dude, there's someone in my backyard." "Jason? What? Who?" "I don't know. He won't leave." "Jason, call the cops." I hesitated. It seemed so stupid now, but part of me still thought, maybe this is just some prank. Maybe it's not that serious. Then I heard something, the back door handle turning. I nearly dropped my phone. He was trying to get inside. I scrambled to my feet and ran down the hall to my mom's room. She kept a wooden bat in her closet, and even though I doubted it would do much good, I gripped it tight. For a moment, the house was dead silent again. Then, the front door handle. He was trying to get in through there now. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold on to the bat. Then, from the front porch, a loud, deliberate knock. My breath caught in my throat. Knock, knock, knock. I edged toward the living room, peering through the curtains. The porch light flickered, casting long, distorted shadows. He was standing there now, half hidden in the dim glow. His head was tilted, his mouth stretched into a wide, unnatural grin. He knew I was watching, and he was enjoying this. My phone buzzed in my hand, Jason calling. I answered in a whisper, "Dude, he's at my front door." "Holy, __, bro, call the cops." I don't know why I hadn't already. Maybe I was too scared to move, too paralyzed by the pure wrongness of the situation. I turned away from the window, forcing myself to dial 911. As soon as I did, bang, the front door shook violently. I let out a strangled cry, stumbling backward. He was trying to break in. I pressed the phone to my ear, my voice coming out hoarse. "There's a man trying to get into my house," I managed to say. He's on my porch. He's been in my backyard." I heard another bang, then silence. I crept toward the window again, slowly, my heart threatening to explode in my chest. He was gone. The porch was empty. The yard was still. The only sign that he had ever been there was the deck chair, still slightly turned toward my window. The police arrived 10 minutes later. I barely remember what I told them. I was still shaking, my thoughts scrambled. They searched the yard, the street, the wooded area beyond our fence. Nothing. No footprints. No sign of forced entry. No proof that he had ever been there at all. But I knew what I had seen. And I knew that he had seen me too. The police left after doing a routine check of the area, but I barely slept that night. I kept expecting to hear that knock again, to look out and see him grinning up at me. For weeks, I double-checked the locks every night. I barely slept. Every little noise made my skin crawl. Whoever he was, whatever he wanted, he had been there. And he had watched me. And somehow, I knew. That wouldn't be the last time. Story 3. When I was 10, I learned what real fear felt like. The kind that doesn't just scare you in the moment, but buries itself deep inside you, creeping back in quiet moments, whispering that you were lucky once, but maybe not next time. We were a family of 4, my mom, dad, my older brother Noah, and me. Our house was an old 2-story home on the edge of a quiet neighborhood, backed by a thick line of trees that led to a creek. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. That night, my parents left in a hurry. Noah had been out with friends, and a phone call from the hospital shattered the calm of our evening. He'd been hit by a car. My mom was in tears, scrambling to grab her purse, my dad trying to calm her down as they bundled my little sister into the car. I had stayed home, not because I didn't care, but because they told me to. "You'll be okay, right?" my dad had asked. I had nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine." I wasn't fine. I tried distracting myself with video games, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to Noah. Was he okay? Was he hurt badly? I played until my eyes burned, until my hands ached from gripping the controller. It was well past midnight when I heard the front door open. Relief flooded through me. My parents must be back. I turned off the TV, crawled into bed, and waited to hear them come upstairs. But the house stayed eerily silent. Something felt wrong. I crept out of bed and padded to my door, opening it just enough to peek down the hall. The living room light was still off. That didn't make sense. I stepped out, heart hammering in my chest. The old wooden floors creaked under my feet as I moved toward the staircase. From the landing, I had a clear view of the living room. There were 3 people standing in the dark. I nearly gasped, but I clamped my hand over my mouth. They were tall, 2 men and a woman. Their faces were shadowed, their movements slow and deliberate as they scanned the room. They weren't my parents. My blood turned ice. I backed up, forcing myself to breathe silently. My mind screamed at me to run, to do something, but my body refused to move. Then, one of them, the tallest one, tilted his head. He was listening. He had heard me. Panic surged through me, and I turned, moving as fast as I dared back to my room. I closed the door as quietly as possible and darted toward my closet. I squeezed myself into the back, behind old blankets and boxes of clothes. My heart was slamming so hard I was sure they would hear it. For a few minutes, there was nothing. Just silence. Then, soft footsteps. They were coming upstairs. I clenched my hands into fists, pressing myself deeper into the darkness. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. The knob twisted. Slowly, achingly slow, the door creaked open. I bit my lip to keep from making a sound. The footsteps moved inside. I squeezed my eyes shut. My entire body felt like it was about to snap. Then, the closet door opened. I didn't move, didn't breathe. For what felt like an eternity, there was nothing but the sound of my pounding heart. Then the door creaked closed again. Footsteps moved away. I waited. 10 seconds. 30. A full minute. When I finally opened my eyes, the room was empty. They hadn't seen me. I stayed hidden, forcing myself to stay silent even as my lungs screamed for air. It wasn't until much later, maybe an hour, maybe more, that I heard the front door open again. This time, it was my parents. I ran downstairs, nearly sobbing as I threw myself at them. The front door was ajar. My dad stared at it, his face darkening. They got in. I choked out. He didn't ask who. He just knew. The police came, but the intruders were long gone. They had taken valuables, electronics, jewelry, but they had left behind something worse. They had stood in my room. They had opened my closet. And they had been right there, inches away from me, in the dark. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every whisper of wind sent me diving under my blankets, heart racing. I still don't know why they left me alone. Maybe they never saw me. Or maybe they did. And they just liked knowing that I was too scared to move.